Greetings, magical souls. I have come on today because I have had another few things drop in for me. It's been a bit of a week. Monday started with the 5-5 portal, and here I am on New Zealand time, Friday, only the 9th of May, in just 4 days. This week has felt like a year. But anyway, clearly something is happening, and I know that a lot of people are going through these things, and it seems like there is a real remembrance and an awakening that is now accelerating at a really, really rapid rate. So I have already mentioned the great synchronicities that are coming in for me, and that I'm really, really listening to the universe in ways that I've not listened before. There's an awareness about me. And so when things come in for me at the moment and just cross my path, I look at them. And something happened yesterday evening. I had a video cross my path. I watched it, but I'd already been feeling into some of this, as you know, from Monday. If you've watched my video about my experience on the 5-5 portal, which I will link here if you've not seen that. And so this ties back to that. This week has been, that's why I say it's felt like a year, because it started on Monday and it's just been kind of unraveling as the week has gone by. But last night there was a video that I came across and I watched it and then I had to sleep on it. And then this morning I woke with some insights, but I also asked the dragons to comment on it. And something very, very deep is awakening. And I feel like this is important to be addressed, because I think that through addressing these things is how we heal and how we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. So let me begin. I have some notes again to keep myself on track. So it feels like this might be a story that is buried in our collective memory, and it feels like it is rising now. It's not lost on me that we are seeing the rising of all the darkness out there of what's going on in the world. All the darkness that's out there, in the same way I was exploring my darkness on the 5-5 portal, this is all happening within us, and I believe it's coming up to be healed. And I feel like there are codes unlocking. The dragons are definitely stirring. And this is the important thing, is this video that I watched last night, which I will link. It's linked in the description box. I encourage everybody to go and watch it so that you can get the totality of this lady's message. Her name also happens to be Emma. But there was it was largely a very negative message about the dragons. But it's really important, really, really important for anybody that is new to dragons. They would probably watch that video and go, oh shit, I'm not going anywhere near dragons. But there were things encoded within her message that I, of course, picked up on, and some of you will pick up on them as well. But there is something was already stirring in me with my earlier thing that happened this week at the 5-5 portal. And I also have spoken about the stellar nations before, which is like a very, it's almost like our cosmic origins, if you will, the soul aspects of our of these sort of what are they called, star families or stellar nations, that we really all carry within us, but some of us have more of that in us, and we carry almost like ancestry, if you will, but we all have it within us. But I've been on this path for a couple of years now, and finally this morning it was like a huge piece of the puzzle just clicking into place for me, and I'd really like to share it. I'm also going to link the Stellar Nations videos on the dragons in this description box for anybody who wants to go and dive more deeply into what I'm going to just touch on here today. If I have to cover everything, this is going to be a 4-hour video, and I'd like to keep it short. The thing about the dragon stirring, is that not all of them are of the light. In the same way, not all humans are of the light, not all reptilians are bad. There is this theme of duality and polarity, and that's why this is an important message. So not all dragons are of the light. And you'll see from the video that this other lady, Emma, has done, she is really talking about how much of the, I guess I like to call them the powers that were, because they don't have the power over this realm anymore, but how they are dragon bloodlines, and sort of the hunger for power, the lust for power, control, the distortion, all of the inversion, the squishing of the divine feminine, all of these kinds of things. So we all know the story. But she goes into a little bit deeper, like saying that some of these dragons are buried beneath places like Cern, and there's a whole load of things. You can go into that, and then maybe you'll need to come back and re-watch this video. But I'm now going to touch on the stellar nations, because the stellar nations is something that was like in our very, very beginnings of our galactic history. To me, they feel like they were almost the divine and the sacred energies, the primordial energies, if you will, that came from source. When I talk about time and I say eons ago, I know that it's only the here and now, but in our plane, we work with linear time. So I'm going to refer to like eons ago. Early on, the dragons and the great felines were a team. The dragons bringing in the masculine energy, and the felines bringing in the feminine energy. They worked as a team. They were friends. Everything was okay until their leader, the leader of the dragons, his name, I believe, was Khan. He became very power hungry. He became very distorted. And he betrayed the great felines, but he also betrayed his own kind. This was the distortion of the masculine. It's very much what we're seeing playing out now. What really happened is, the long and short of it is, that he wanted to create a hybrid race because he wanted the strength of the dragons with all the grace and the intuition and the femininity and the fluidity of the feminine. It's really, really a sad story. But he didn't want the partnership. He wanted the dominion. And what happened is that from what I understand, is some of the dragons fled when they realized what he was doing. But what he did manage to do is he wanted to create a hybrid race with the great felines. And so what he did was he had them impregnated under sort of false pretenses, and then any of the hybrids that were born, the ones that were of that were slightly more feline, I think he largely killed because they were too feline. And then the ones that were more dragon, he actually started to I believe almost train them into like these warriors, and he was very, very cruel to them, and sort of training an army that was just really, there was just really no love there or anything like that. And so those dragons became quite distorted, but he also had all the dragons that wouldn't fall in line and follow him. He wiped them out. He had them killed. And then the ultimate betrayal to the felines was that he basically wanted to wipe them out as well. And but he basically tortured the dragon hybrids, and he trained them to be soldiers. And it just it really wasn't great. And then I believe the leader of the felines, the great felines, wouldn't fight back. And because of that, most of the great felines were almost hunted into extinction. A couple of them managed to flee, and I believe they went to other places. But there was a deep, deep, deep wounding there because the dragons had always been their friends and they couldn't understand what had happened. There was a great, great betrayal of the divine feminine. Then there was a just moving on a little bit because I don't have the time. It's not lost on me, but I was talking recently about how connected I am to panther energy, how one of my animal spirit guides is a panther, and I've always been very well connected to them. Well, I suddenly remembered the other day is that the kind of the sort of, I guess, the prophecy, if you will, in the Stellar Nations, or what sort of happened was, so this beautiful panther was going to basically all the exiled dragons and all the hybrids and all the very, very wounded felines, she was going to somehow bring balance back into that. So that was the first thing this week when I was speaking about my beautiful panther Nagar. That was like, oh, hang on a minute, I hadn't quite made that connection. So I feel like I'm connected to what's really dropped in for me this week is that how much of a connection I have to both that dragon energy, those soul aspects, as well as the great feline. And I believe that this being was a like a seventh dimensional being that was going to come in. And so this is really a remembrance. I don't think this is fantasy. And I mean, it's very strange living in the world at the moment because a lot of it feels like, wow, am I just going out there? Do I need to be more embodied in the physical realm? It's very, very, very weird. But I feel like this is important because of the epiphanies that were dropping in for me and also the messages, the message that the dragons shared with me this morning when I asked them about this, as I've not actually asked them about this before. And so for me, it feels like I carry both of those lines, and therefore I can almost be a bridge. I can see both sides. I feel the pain of both sides. It's not like, oh, bad dragons or oh, shame felines. It's like I can feel the the torture and the pain and the wounding of both of those sides. And I think that's why Quetzalcoatl has been coming in because he's also a bridge. He's a bridge almost between the upper realms and the earthly realm. So something really interesting is happening here. But there might be many of you out there that are also the bridge. And as I say, we all have these soul aspects within us because it's almost from the galactic war time. So, I mean, these things have been going on for, however long, since time began. But, it's just an interesting perspective that I wanted to come on and share with you because there's an important message. Because I remember the pain of the betrayal, the power being distorted, the deep longing and the not understanding why for the betrayal. Earlier on this week, I think I was feeling into some of this, the being hunted, but the hunting, and the dying, but the not choosing to fight, and just like the moment where everything turned, where everything was okay, and all of a sudden it wasn't. I mean, I think that's why I was exploring the depths of my darkness on the 5-5 portal, because this is very connected to it. And I believe that we are now standing here at this very pivotal point in time. Again, it's just not the story of the dragons and the felines. It's the story of the polarity. It's the story of the distortion, or it's the story of forgetting who we are. Because is it in the forgetting who we are that we are part of the all that is, that we are part of source, that we are the light? Is that what causes the distortion? I'm not 100% sure. But this energy is rising again. These remembrances are rising again. And exactly as that other Emma put it, that it's happening now. I mean, the the sort of darker ones are also resurrecting. And when I say darker ones, I'm talking about the dragons. I'm talking about the dragons. So, and it's rising. It's rising, as I say, out there. It's rising within. It's rising in technology. It's rising in wars, and it's all around control. It's this thing about control and power. This through fear, through dominating, through and maybe even through the light. I mean, I don't know. But what I wanted to just say is that not all dragons are evil, but they're not all saviors either. And actually, nobody really is a savior, but they're not necessarily our protectors, and they're not all our protectors, and they're not all of the light, but they're not all evil. What I wanted to just touch on today is that, wow, okay, I've just got this huge tone in my ear. And what I wanted to touch on today is that we've got to stop with the generalizations. So all reptilians are bad, all this is bad, all that's bad. The masculine is hard. It's just all of these things are. So in that video, as I say, dragons were bad. But this is really, really important because, as they say, the devil's in the details. And I think that if we look back at what happened in Atlantis, this to me ties very much in with this spiritual bypassing that we've had going on, and also the infiltration of the spiritual community and it being all love and light and what have you. And I wondered this morning, I don't know, I just wondered this morning whether when the Atlanteans started taking the dark path, where they were on the dark path, was it the spiritual bypassing of, oh, but we all come from love and light and whatever, and it doesn't matter? Was that what led to the actual downfall? Because what happened to me earlier this week in the examining of my darkness, there was a profound transformation within me and a profound understanding and a whole lot of memories being unlocked. And that might be the key. And that's why I want to explore this a little bit more, because we need to just stop with the like just generalizing and the broad paintbrushes and whatever, and rather just lean into discernment and lean into what something feels like, but not just tar everything with the same brush, if you will. And it feels like we need the clarity, and the clarity is critical at this time, because if we don't understand what happened, then I think we may be repeating this. And I think that we're at a choice point now where if we can really learn from this and we can look at our darkness and we can stop with the generalizations and just really understand that we've all had a part in this, and there's no like you're bad, I'm good, all of this, all of the finger pointing, if we can just stop and look at this from a broader perspective, I think we might be at a point where this kind of thing might not be repeated again, because I don't believe that these wars and this kind of distortion of the masculine energy is only happening in this realm. I mean, that's must have been why there were galactic wars, because it's happened in other places. So what I felt from this morning and sleeping on it last night and tuning in this morning was that energy of Khan maybe didn't disappear. Maybe it was bound. Maybe it's been harvested, recycled. That energy, I think, is coming through in some of the transhumanist agendas, some of the where we're going to merge our consciousness with a machine, and that whole timeline that is very similar to the Atlantean one, which is not a very light timeline. Well, it's not the one I want anyway, because it's not organic, it's synthetic. I feel like this lesson is going to be repeated until it's seen, and that's why I want to talk about it. I want to feel into it. I want to share it. I want for us to see it, and I want for us to integrate it, because it's really, really important. we've got to look at our shadows. We've got to see the parts in ourselves that were betrayed and the parts that betrayed. And we've got to stop vilifying, as I said earlier, everybody else and really start choosing to land in the heart. And I know this is a common theme, but it connects very much to the dragons. And what was interesting is that there was a mention made of when the original bloodline awakens. That to me is the original primordial, before it was distorted, masculine dragon energy. That is the pure one. Because remember that we've got both here. We have got the darker one, but we've also got the pure one. And this is this cosmic remembrance. And I'm hoping that as I'm talking, that maybe this sparks something off in some of you, particularly those of you who are called to work with the dragons, and maybe even some of you that are watching this that have a fear of the dragons. This could explain it. You may have a fear of the dragons because of something that happened. You may have been one of the ones that was hunted down. It's how that remembrance shows up for you. I'm not here to convince anybody. I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong. I'm asking you to feel into my words and then to discern and decide for yourself what your truth is. The other thing I also want to say is that sometimes, I mentioned it earlier, people who might fear the dragons, but fear is a big thing. You know, fear keeps people from their own knowing. And that's why I really always like to share different sides of things in my videos, not just one side, because people need to then go and do their own digging, do their own research, and also feel into how things land for them. But to be living in fear means that you are keeping yourself from your own knowing. You could even be keeping yourself from your own shadow. And remember, we can only move forward and really, really, really be the ripple and make the changes in the world when we look at our shadow and we heal it and we integrate it. So it's really a key part of my message here today. The original essence of the dragons, the primordial dragons, the ones that were first created before any distortions, were guardians of divine will and divine order. And that's almost what's so awful about what has happened and about the flipping, because if you think about divine will and divine order, well, a lot of us have had our sort of wills abused and used, and there doesn't seem to be any order in the world at the moment. So but that's why I say what's happening within us is happening out there. They are reflections. And that's why it's really important for us to tune into this at this time. And I wanted to just say to everybody that your state of being is really, really important, because when I tune into the dragons, or sometimes even with the animals, I never do it when I'm in a state where I'm a little bit, maybe I'm having a day where I'm a little bit rattled, I'm feeling a little bit prickly, I'm feeling a little bit irritated. We all have those days, we're human. But I never ever tune in when I'm in that state of being, because that's then what I'm going to get. And it's the same with, I guess, channeling of any sort. We're always warned about the beings that sort of come in dressed as an archangel, but they aren't. So it really is just having that same discernment. If you want to work with the dragons, or with any energy for that matter, you need to check what your intention is when you go in there. What do you want to do? Because if you're going in there to get a dragon to go and, sort of light up someone's ass, which I know we often want to do. I mean, I'm making light of it, but you know what I mean. That's not the right intention, because you're going to be drawing an energy towards you that is not pure, because you are wanting power over somebody else. And this is why it all comes down to what is in here. What is our intention? And what is your state of being when you go in to do that work with the dragons, the angels, whoever it is, if you want to check with your guards or whatever it is. It really is. That's why discernment is becoming so key. I also just wanted to make mention, a lot is told in our movies, a lot is told in our news. We know all this. But I was really thinking also during this week, as all these things have been unfolding, about the Game of Thrones. And I love the Game of Thrones, obviously, because, dragons. But I remember, really, really remembered, and it brought me to tears again this week, just remembering it. And now I'm getting a bit emotional again. And I mean, it's so stupid because it's a TV series, but it's the energy behind it. But there was that scene for anybody that watched Game of Thrones when Daenerys sent the dragons out and they were just burning villages and places. And I mean, the whole place was just in ruins. And I was crying for the villagers that were being burnt. I was crying because the dragons were doing her dirty work. They were under her control. And it was so funny because she had control of those dragons and they would go and do anything for her. Anything that she commanded them to do, whether it was good or bad, they went and did. It's very much the same here. It's that's why I say it's this control. It's this lustful control and power. This is what we've got to look at. And this is sitting in our shadows. It's sitting in our shadows. And then what was so funny is that when the Night King got hold of one of her dragons, and then all of a sudden, there was that scene where you saw it, and it was in that like glowing blue color with the glowing blue eyes and whatever. The whole message there was, I've taken your power, I've overridden your will, and I've stolen your sovereignty. So the dragons were, they were with Daenerys and supposedly there, and then everybody goes, oh, but now they're with the Night King, and oh, now they're on the bad side. But they weren't doing good when they were on the other side either. So you can see the whole time how they were under Daenerys's control, and then they were under the Night King's control. It's just an analogy that I wanted to present because it speaks volumes for me, because it's not necessarily the dragons themselves, it's a distortion. And some of us, as we know, have gotten caught up in, which is what I alluded to in that other video when I said, how dark have I been? Because some of us have gotten caught up in that because we forgot what we were, we forgot who we were. So really, really, really important to just share this message today. And I hope that it is received in the way that I've intended it. What I did want to end with is, as I mentioned earlier, I tuned into the dragons upon waking this morning, and I asked them for their take on everything, because everything had, some of the stuff hadn't quite landed in me, but since they gave me this message, it was really, really interesting, because I've never actually asked them. I've never asked them about the Stellar Nations story. I've never asked them. I guess for me, they've always been beings of light, although I'm aware of the story, but for me, they've always been beings of light. And I think because in their pure primordial essence, like all of us, we're all beings of light. But I just hadn't realized this morning until they answered this question, how I've never seen them as dark, which is very interesting. But this is what they told me. I said to them, I kind of just tuned in with them, and I said to them, what are your comments on the video that I watched last night? You know everything that's going through my brain. What are your comments, and what can you share with me that can help me to process this or make sense of this? And it was very funny because they said no comment. And then there was a bit of silence, and I was like, okay. And then they said, we don't defend, and when you know, you know. We don't need words, and yes, we can be corrupted, but all can be. Always remember your intention. What is your intention, and where is your power? Do you want to dominate? You humans, even when you are arguing with one another, you want to dominate the other with your opinion. This is all perspective, remember, but it's also discernment. So do you believe what you hear, or do you decide for yourself? Your truth may be completely different from all other ones or somewhere in between. That's what true sovereignty is, the ability to decide for you. Your truth, no matter if it's a truth that is standing alone. A further level, how do you feel as you stand in that truth? Do you feel discomfort? If you do, that's not a bad thing, so dig deeper. Does that discomfort expand or contract you? Ask yourself, does this make me feel powerless or powerful? Good. But if you are then feeling powerful, what does that power feel like? This has many layers. Does the power make you feel superior, or is it quiet and humbling? Do you need to defend it, or can you just hold that power? Nothing is just one-sided, one level, or one depth. It is all of this. We all have our own truth. That is the point. If we're all fractals, then no two will ever be fully, truly, 100% aligned, because no two are alike. And it is being okay with this. The only problem you're going to encounter is if you go down a path where you choose your truth from an external source. Your truth has to come from within, from your connection. And yes, this connection, it can be distorted too, as you well know. This is why you need to know yourself. When you're truly connected and you know yourself and you are aware of yourself, you know what you feel like, the true you, the part of you that lives and burns within. And you are then easily able to spot where the ego or the mind is coming in, and you can also spot influence or infiltration because it doesn't feel like you. Please note, we can be used for dark too. Never ever forget that. Intention is everything, and everything is all just experience. Nothing is negative or positive, really. Anything and everything can be used for bad or good, seen as bad or good. And when you get comfortable with this concept, this is when you will truly start to understand. That was the message I got from the dragons afterwards, and I think it speaks volumes. But I do find it interesting that I had never, ever thought of them as being dark beings until I saw this video. And then it just was like, oh my word. I was sitting there and I was almost reeling, and I was going, I was sitting there interrogating myself again, going, have you been hoodwinked? Have you been under a spell of amnesia? Are the dragons bad? It was almost along the same lines of as Monday, except I wasn't really interrogating myself. I was interrogating my belief in the dragons as being these beautiful light beings that I've always known them to be. And as I say, when they came through with this message, it really hit home for me, because they told me that not all of them are good. And wow, I mean, yeah, I think the message speaks for itself. So I will end that off there. Very interesting times that we are living in, but I think that these are important conversations to have. I always aim on this channel to not to bring my experiences to you in the hope that they are helpful. But when it comes to things like this that I've experienced, I always like to present both sides of the story. And that's why I like to share the videos that I refer to, because I don't want to, I'd rather you hear it from the horse's mouth of a video that I've seen or a message that I've seen. So that you can make up your own minds and use your own discernment, because that's what this is all about. You shouldn't be listening to me, but that's why I felt like it was really important for me to come on here today, because anybody that's maybe new to dragon work and is feeling the call to work with them because they also see them as light beings like I do and always have, it's a good thing to know that there's a dark side to them too, and to just be very aware of what you're working with, what your intention is, and what your state of being is. And I guess also what also dawned on me is I think that because I've always carried that dragon energy for me, it feels so much a part of me that I've never, maybe that's why I've also never considered it as anything dark, because it's not ever really felt external to me. It's part of me. It just is. Certainly interesting times. That's all I can say. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. And if you have any further comments on this, or would like to share anything, I encourage you to do so. And knowledge is power, and there are so many forgotten things, and we're all remembering a little piece of the puzzle at the moment. And if we can share that, I do believe that it sparks remembrances in somebody else. And this is the way that we walk one another home and lead ourselves, hopefully away from repeating the mistakes of the past and what's going on at present. So thank you so much for watching, and wishing you all a magical rest of your day.